What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am so super stoked and excited to be back here with you. There are some differences. As you can see, I've got a new studio. I've also been doing some really cool, fun things. And one of those things I've done is I've started to really dive into real estate photography. It's a great way to make some extra cash or even to start a business and build a career out of. But there's a lot of things out there in real estate photography, a lot of things people say that are really not as accurate as they used to be, and they kind of scare people away. And one of those things is this mindset that the best way to make money at real estate photography is to do bracketed shots, send them to an editor somewhere overseas, pay a couple of bucks, and have them send you back some really cool photos that you can then sell to your client. And the idea is that by doing this, you can shoot 5, 6, 7 houses a day, send them off, send the money back. You work 9 hours a day and you're making a lot of money. And that's great. But what if I told you there was a way you could make the same money, not give any money to an editor, and pocket a lot more of the profits without putting in any more time? Now, if you haven't figured it out yet, what I'm talking about is flambient photography. What flambient means is it's a mix of the ambient image plus a flash image. Let's jump in Lightroom. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, this is a pretty good shot as is. I shot it with my Canon EOS M50 at 1/5 of a second with my aperture at 5.0 and my ISO of 200. This was shot at 11 millimeters. Everything is in focus and you've got a pretty good exposure here. Now this room is pretty well lit at the time of the photograph, and it's got light colored walls, so it's a pretty easy photo to take. And you could honestly take this, run it through as is, and probably send it off without having to take extra exposure. Anytime I shoot, my ambient shot is always a bracket, because if you do lose some stuff in the shadows, you can do some of the same blending to get them back. Same with the highlights. If they're a little blown out, you can get them back. The flash I used for the shots coming up was actually not that expensive. I used two. They are the MK430 Speedlight. Now, I will be honest with you, if you're going to be doing a large room with a lot of hardwood and dark cabinets, this is probably not going to work as well. At the very least, you're going to need to take several shots. Even in this room, I needed two flash, one that I kept above the camera and one that I kept on a flash stand. And I have this very simple trigger here and the trigger on top of my camera that there's nothing, no tricks, no gimmicks, anything like that. It's just plug and play. It sends the signal to the two triggers and sends off the flash. If you can't afford the trigger plus the flash, a great workaround is to set the second flash into slave mode, and then when your first flash goes off, it will trigger the second flash to go off. So I do have a flash sitting over here on a stand. If you look really closely, you can see the bottom of the leg of the flash stand in this camera or in this shot, but it's not anything that you could either crop out or just leave and the client wouldn't notice. So why do we do flambient as opposed to just an ambient shot like this or a flash shot? Well, let's start with the ambient shot. With the ambient shot, these colors are not exact. These cabinets are a little yellow, as is the sofa and the floor, and that's because these lights, like most houses, they're warm white. So they're going to be a little more of an orange glow. We like that. That feels warm. That's why we do it. But it doesn't look as good on camera, and it doesn't make the colors as natural. By shooting with a flash, we're able to get the natural colors. Now, unfortunately, as you can see from this flash shot, we're able to get those natural colors, but it doesn't really light the room. It leaves a little bit of shadow, or if you get it really good shot and really bright, like we do here, it's still just a little bright and a little cold. So that's why we go with the flambient blend. And so a lot of people think flambient's going to take you 20-30 minutes per photo. I'm going to do this one right now with you, and you're going to see that I can do this in a pretty quick edit, and it's even faster if you use presets and Photoshop actions. But I'm going to do it manually first, and then we're going to go in and use our actions. So the first thing you do is you want to highlight your first photo, hold down your shift key, highlight your last one, right click, edit and open as layers in Photoshop. Now, if you're gonna do this, it's a good time to tell you, take up drinking tea, coffee, water, anything like that, because it takes a minute for Photoshop to load the images, and that's a good time to sip on tea. Okay, so we need to select all again, doing the same thing. You have your first one highlighted, then you want to go down, pick your last one, shift click on that, and then you want to come up here to edit, align layers. You want to hit auto and click OK. And now it's going to automatically align all the layers together to give you your best image. And as you can see here by these dotted lines, there was a little bit of shift in the camera. This is another reason why it's really good to invest $12 into a remote trigger, because the more you touch the camera, the more likely you're going to have issues like this. And most likely these issues came when I switched from bracketed to single shot. Okay, so now comes the moment of organization. So we know our top layer is our ambient layer, and we're not going to do anything with that right now, so we're going to turn it off. This is the layer with the flash on the left side, so we're going to rename that one to right, believe it or not. The reason we're renaming it to right, even though the flash is on the left side, is because we're actually trying to light up the right side of the room with the flash on the left, and vice versa. And then we're going to turn that off again, and now this is with the flash on the right side, so we name it left. So we know in the next step, we're going to be working on the left side. This is our main flash layer, so we're just going to call that main. And we're going to turn that off and see what we have left. What we have left now is our window pull. Now we do the window pull with the flash directly at the glass from the side, because as you see here, it gets everything nice and clean and white, and it makes it a whole lot easier to brush that out and get a nice clean image. All right, so now that we have all of that, let's go ahead and turn off our window pull because we're not going to need that. And we're going to start blending these left and right layers. But we can't, before we do that, we have to put a hidden mask on them. So there's a couple of ways to do it. The easiest way is to hold down your option or on a option key on a Mac, alt key on a PC, and down here at the bottom right, click your mask. That puts up your black layer mask, which hides everything, but puts a mask on there for you to paint it back in. And then we're going to do the same thing on the left one. The other way to do it, I'm going to show you, is to go image. Layer, layer mask, and hide all. So now we just have our center weighted flash shot, and we can start painting in the left and right sides. So we're going to start here on the left. We have a brush. We have our white as our foreground layer. Our flow is a little higher here than I like, so we're going to drop that down to about 3 or 4%. And then with your bracket keys, you can make your brush bigger or smaller. Let's get a nice big brush in here, and let's just start painting it in. And you want to think about your brush here kind of like a can of spray paint, right? You're going to spritz a little bit on and then move away with it. You don't, because if you hold it and just keep going back and forth, you're just continuing to add to it. Okay, so I think we got a good bit of that color in here. So now let's switch over to our left side and do the same thing. Get that middle pretty good. Now what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get some of that light back, but mostly we're trying to get that natural color to level out all the way across the image. We can bring our flow up a little bit. Just be very careful on how high you come, because you don't want to accidentally bring back too much. All right, I think we have our colors pretty well balanced here. And so now we want to merge these layers together and make them one. So you click on your main one, because just for uh, organizational purposes, hold your shift key, go up and click your top one, and then you want to right click on that and come down until you see merge layers. There's a couple of options you can have here. You can group from layers, which if you group from layers, it gives you the chance to go back and fix things that you may have gotten wrong. But actually, before we do this, I do see, let's go ahead and hit this right one. I want to bring this flow back down to like 1. I just want to kind of get these cabinets a little bit because there's a little color cast on there. And I want to get this wall right here and get some of this color cast out of here. Some of that shadow gone. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good, pretty even. So let's go ahead and merge these layers, like I said. Okay, so now we want to open our ambient layer back up, and we want to blend our ambient and our flash layers together. So you want to come back up to your top layer, make sure you selected your top layer, and you want to change your blend mode here. And you want to change this to luminosity mode. Because what luminosity mode does is it's going to bring through all of that color without bringing through the light. So it really cleans that up. And as you see here, it's taken away all of that color cast. But this is not quite right. This is a little bit flat. So what we need to do is we need to drop this down to about 50% opacity. Somewhere between 50 and 75 usually is that sweet spot is around 50 to 60. And yeah, I'm gonna hold it right here at about 59, and I kind of like the way this looks right here. So this is a good starting shot, but we still don't have the detail outside the window that we want. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and do that same merging of the layers. And then we want to open up our window pool, put that guy back on top, and remember that option mask to get that black mask on here. And then we want to also take this and we want to pull it into darken mode. The reason we pull it in darken mode is it's going to ignore everything dark. So we can now bring our flow up as high as 100% if we want to. I usually try to go around 50, and we can hit this. Make sure you are on your mask, that and your white is your foreground color. And let's just go ahead and start hitting this guy. As you see, it's starting to pull everybody through. And you didn't lose any detail here. You didn't darken any of the windows or any of the curtains. And it just looks like a clean shot, pulling in the outside without overdoing it. So we go ahead and let's highlight both of these guys and right click our mouse again, and now we're going to come down to flatten image. The reason you want to flatten the image is if you do the next step without flattening, it's going to be a huge file because it's going to be sending all of that information. Flattening the image compresses it all down to one small image. Okay, now that that's done, all you have to do now is right here next to the name of your image, just go ahead and click the X. When it asks, you definitely want to save, and this is actually going to shoot that back into Lightroom for you for the last couple of steps. Now here our image is opened back up in Lightroom. The first thing we want to do, go into our develop module and crop out those white lines on the sides without losing any detail if we can. Okay, that looks pretty good. Honestly, right here, this looks pretty darn good as it is. You can check your white balance. I think that really screws that up. Let's see. If we auto expose, what is it going to say? I'm not a fan of that. I do want to bring back the shadows just a bit and bring down the blacks just a bit just to get that contrast. You can then use the dehaze. I wouldn't use the contrast slider because the contrast is going to give you way too much over the entire image, whereas the dehaze kind of just gets those edges. You can add a little vibrance, a little saturation. You don't really have to come into your HSL layers and pull out any of the yellows or reds like you do with an HDR image. You can literally leave that completely alone. And I would come down here and just add, I bring the sharpening up to about 70, and then click on your masking slider, but then hold down that same option or tab key, and you see how that now grays everything out. Now what you see is everything that's white is what's getting sharpening. So you're really just sharpening those edges and those lines, and you're really just creating that nice crisp image. And there we go. That's a good final image. I would probably throw this finished image back into Photoshop, do some quick dodge and burn, and send it to the client that way. As you can see, even with this, it took us less than 10 minutes, even when we talking you through it. Now, let me show you how long it'll take using presets and quick action and Photoshop action. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Select my 6 images, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. This part, there's no way around it. Just gonna take a minute. All right, everybody's open. You know it's open when it does that down to one image and then brings the rest back. Okay. Select all. Let's open my options or my actions panel back up. Align layers, which I also have as a function key. All right. Okay, turn off the window pull layer. And now we come in and black layer mask, which is I have as a function key, F3, F3, and set this guy back to about 10%. Nice and big. Start leveling my light out. Back in here, get these cabinets like I did before. Okay. Now, we'll go ahead and we will merge these together. Set this as my 50-50. And merge again. And now we bring our window pull up to the top and do our window pull, which puts it in darken mode. And adds that layer mask. All right, and there's everything. Now I'm gonna do something I didn't do on the last one, just because I really want to fix this up a little bit. Let's see how I can do it, how I do with it. And there we go. Now I took some of that glare out of the window just by using that same mask to pull the window from I'll pull the TV from the window pull layer. All right, and we merge these guys back together, or flatten this image down. Again, there's an action flatten. And close it down. Save it. As soon as your blue bar down here goes away, head on over to Lightroom, and bam, that's it. And that's and the crop, and I'm done. And that's it. As you can see by the clock, it took about 4 minutes to get that done. And I had a product that I am very happy to send to the client. Now, I did throw it back into Photoshop with the quick action for a dodge and burn that I have, which this is the final product, which I'm very, very happy with. It's a lot less flat, a lot more vivid colors, and a lot more detail and a lot more shadow. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So definitely, if you got some value out of this, please subscribe. I'm gonna do more stuff like this. I do a lot of video editing content, so if this is stuff you're interested in, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you did make it this far, put in the comments what city you're in that you're watching this. I'd love to know where you're from, and I'd love to know that people made it this far. So that's all I have for this video. If you're interested in more will be coming. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep editing. God bless.